Open your mind, because I'm going to show you the strategy that brought me $1,221.65 in a weekend from scratch. This is the key to manifesting money or anything, and you have the power to do it fast. I mean, like immediately. I think you'll be very surprised by how simple this is. If you're new here, hi, I'm Trevor, former psychotherapist and one-time broke and broken-hearted guy turned manifestation expert who figured out the down-to-earth principles that make the law of attraction work and turned my life around. I've manifested incredible things like a stranger paying my mortgage, a Mercedes and the cash for it in a day, and a loving wife whom I met and married in 2006. Now, I help people like you master the law of attraction for success with money, love, and life in general through my videos, books, and online programs. If you'd like to know more about my unorthodox but highly effective law of attraction methods, I've written a free book called How to Manifest a Ferrari. There's a link in the description below this video if you want to download a free copy. I'm not a great fan of this thing, money mindset, because it makes money such a big bogeyman, when in fact it's just a tool for exchanging goods and services, just as we might say a fork is a tool for eating spaghetti. Nobody ever talks about having a fork mindset, do they? However, I do think it's more than possible to have a broke mindset. Looking back, I had one for many years. Even when I had money, I couldn't see how I could keep it, or I just had to use it to catch up on debts I'd run up, which just made me feel poor, and more importantly, hopeless about ever really having enough money to give me the freedom to do what I wanted with my life. That old mindset still rears its ugly little head from time to time, but nowadays I know it, and I know how to deal with it so it never gets a chance to take over. So, if you want to manifest money fast, the first thing you have to do is swat that little beastie. And here's how you do that. First, recognize it. It appears as thoughts accompanied by feelings of hopelessness or maybe frustration, somewhere on that spectrum. The thoughts go something like, I can't afford that. Sometimes they're even more doom-laden, like, I'll never be able to afford anything like that. Or just, who, me? You'll probably have your own variations, but you'll recognize them. Now, if you've been on this channel a while, you know I'm not an advocate of affirmations either, because I just don't think they cause manifesting to happen. But the 6 words I'm about to give you will change everything about manifesting money immediately. Instead of trying to think positive thoughts or beat the broke mindset thoughts into submission, simply say this to yourself. I don't have to think that. You see, you're free to think anything, and you're free to believe or to ignore any thought that happens along. It may hang around like a bad stink in the air, but you don't have to take any notice of it, and it will simply go away on its own. That day recently when I wanted to manifest $499 for something I saw online, and the offer was going away on Sunday, and this was Thursday evening, my first thought was, I can't afford that. I immediately noticed it. That's the key, to notice, and recognized it as a broke mindset thought. So I told myself, I don't have to think that. This all happened in a fraction of a second, but I'm well practiced at it now, so don't worry if you don't catch yourself right away, or even at all the first few times. What happens next is that the wisdom of the universe fills the gap. It's automatic. Do you remember that old adage that goes, we don't create abundance. Abundance is already there. We create limitation. As soon as you stop thinking the broke mindset thought, which is what's creating the limitation, something that will lead you to your goal, which in this case is more money, will occur to you. In my case, the thought that occurred to me was, what if I could make the money? I have 3 days. Now, it's really important to pause here. There's a key distinction between a thought you have when you furrow your brow and try to come up with an answer, and a thought that just occurs to you. Those thoughts float into your awareness like a feather on the wind. You don't do anything, they just come. Ideas, insights, flashes of brilliance. I don't know where they come from, but those are the ones that I consider are from universal intelligence. And we're always tuned into that. All we have to do is listen. Back to the story. The thought that floated in was, what if I could make the money? And then, of course, we get to the big hiccup. How? What you do at this point will be the difference between you manifesting quickly or quite possibly not at all. This next step took me the longest time to get my head around or even to remember, but it's the one that makes all the difference. I mean, all the difference. What you have to know is this: how is not your business. Let me explain by telling you what I did next in that moment on that Thursday evening. Of course, once I'd had the thought about making the money in 3 days, my next thought was, but how? I had no idea. And I was aware of that. I have no idea, I thought. And I noticed that thought. And the very next moment, the thought that came was, so I need an idea. That's all. I didn't try to manifest the money itself because that's a conjuring trick, not a manifestation method. I needed an idea. In that moment, I didn't have one, but I knew the universe would have plenty. The only question was whether an idea would make its way into my consciousness before the offer closed on Sunday. The idea that ended up making me more than double the amount I needed to manifest by Monday morning popped into my head after breakfast on Friday morning. I've told the full story in another video. I'll put that up on the screen and the link will be in the description. And then I acted on it. It took me around 6 or 7 hours with breaks that Friday. Did I know if it would work? Absolutely not. I had no idea whatsoever. But it didn't feel like work. It felt fun and creative, comparable perhaps to when my parents would give me a colouring book and crayons when I was a kid. Sometimes I'd mess up the pictures, but hours would go by while I was absorbed in colouring in. That's play, not work. As I mentioned before, if you want a fuller understanding of my take on how manifesting and the law of attraction works, grab my free book, Let's Manifest a Ferrari, and you'll see why I called it that when you read it, even though I don't own a Ferrari. Now, before I wrap this up, let me summarize the steps for you so you can get this in your head. You can even write them down if you like. They go like this. First, notice the broke mindset thoughts. Just notice them. Don't fight them, but don't listen to them or believe them either. Tell yourself, this is step 2, I don't have to think that. Then wait, go quiet. This is possibly the hardest step for many people because it really is doing nothing, and we are so conditioned to want to control everything. An idea will occur to you, sometimes immediately, sometimes a bit later, or even overnight. When it does, act on it, even if you can't see how it will help. Knowing how is not your job. Now, there's one final point I must make here. You may have noticed that at no point have I talked about manifesting money itself. I haven't suggested you should visualize dollar bills or big numbers. And that's because money itself is just a concept. It only comes when you exchange something with someone that they perceive as valuable, whether it's time or things or some kind of help. It can't fall from the sky any more than you could get a parcel of electricity. It's not a thing like that. The coins and notes we have are just tokens that represent an idea. So the true key to manifesting money fast is to have an idea, which is what I did and have done on many other occasions, and then follow the steps. Now, I mentioned that going quiet may be the most difficult step, and that's especially so when you're in a bit of a hurry, which you might be when you want some money like yesterday. I've made another video about how to quiet your mind, even without meditating. So I suggest you watch that one right now. I'll put it up on the screen for you. Thank you for watching. I hope it's been helpful, and I'll see you soon in another video.